Tonight, ahead of next weekend's governorship and state assembly elections, INEC gives assurances that the bimodal voter accreditation system will be used in the polls, says it's working to avoid a repeat of the glitches in last Saturday's elections. Police in Ogun State warn against scuttling the electoral process, meet with representatives of INEC and political parties in preparations for the governorship election. Federal High Court in Lagos grants leave to Labour Party and 41 others to apply for order compelling INEC to directly and electronically upload results from the polling units in the state to the IREV in next Saturday's election. And Russian and Ukrainian forces fight in the streets of the eastern city of Bakhmut.
And on business news, African Development Bank says international support for the continent's plan to transform agriculture hits $50 billion.
And on sports news tonight, International Football Association Board moves to curb time wasting in matches as new stoppage time rules come into effect this year.
As the nation approaches the second leg of the 2023 general elections holding next weekend, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is given assurances that the bimodal voter accreditation system, also known as BVAS, will be used in the polls. Professor Yakubu made the pledge today during a meeting with all resident electoral commissioners of the INEC headquarters in Abuja. Well, according to him, the BVAS machines are currently being worked on to avoid a repeat of the glitches recorded during last Saturday's elections. He also acknowledged petitions written to the Commission and promised to rectify any proven infraction.
This is the first public meeting that the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is holding with national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners after last Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. A substantial part of this meeting will be held behind closed doors. But before then, the INEC chairman highlights the purpose of the meeting and issues a directive.
Arising from last week's election, the Commission has received reports from our state offices, as well as complaints and petitions from political parties and candidates. Where infractions of any kind are proven, there will be redress. As we approach the governorship and state assembly elections, we must work harder to overcome the challenges experienced in the last election. Nothing else will be acceptable to Nigerians. All staff found to be negligent, whether they are regular or ad hoc officials, including collation and returning officers, must not be involved in the forthcoming elections. RECs must also immediately initiate disciplinary action where prima facie evidence of wrongdoing has been established against any staff involved in the election.
So far, the result of 423 National Assembly seats have been declared, 98 Senate seats and 325 seats in the House of Representatives. The INEC chairman, who assures that the BVAS machine will be deployed at the forthcoming governorship elections, also makes an appeal to the commissioners.
The bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS, will once again be deployed for voter accreditation and result management. The deployment of BVAS has gone a long way to sanitize voter accreditation, as can be seen from the results of recent elections. Since last week, the Commission has intensified the review of the technology to ensure that glitches experienced, particularly with the upload of results, are rectified. We are confident that going forward, the system will run optimally.
The just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections were trailed by divergent comments. Nevertheless, the Commission will be hoping to address the challenges during the governorship and State House of Assembly elections on Saturday, the 11th of March.
Meanwhile, INEC has scheduled the issuance of certificates of return to elected members of the National Assembly for Tuesday and Wednesday. The INEC chairman, Professor Yakubu, stated this during that meeting with Rex. Given the breakdown of the seats won by various political parties, Professor Yakubu said the results show that the 10th National Assembly is the most diverse assembly since 1999.
In last Saturday's election, winners have also been declared for 423 national legislative seats, while supplementary elections will be held in 46 constituencies. In the Senate, 98 out of 109 seats have been declared. So far, 7 political parties have won senatorial seats, while in the House of Representatives, 325 out of 360 seats have been won by 8 political parties. In terms of party representation, this is the most diverse National Assembly since 1999 and is illustrated in the table I have provided in my speech. Take the Senate, for instance. Parties in the Senate are as follows, and the number of seats. APC, 57 seats. APGA, 1 seat. The Labour Party, 6. New Nigeria People's Party, 2. People's Democratic Party, 29. Social Democratic Party, 2. And Young Progressive Party, 1. For the House of Representatives, parties are distributed and the seats as follows. ADC, 2. APC, 162. APGA, 4. Labour Party, 34. NNPP, 18. PDP, 102. SDP, 2. And the YPP, 1 seat. Certificates of return will be presented to senators-elect on Tuesday, 7th March 2023 at 11 a.m. at the National Collation Center, which is the International Conference Center here in Abuja, while members of the House of Representatives-elect will receive theirs the following day, Wednesday, 8th March 2023 at 11 a.m. at the same venue. However, for effective crowd management, each member or senator-elect should be accompanied by a maximum of 2 guests. The comprehensive list of all members-elect so far will be uploaded to the Commission's website shortly. Arising from last week's election, the Commission has received reports from our state offices, as well as complaints and petitions from political parties and candidates. Where infractions of any kind are proven, there will be redress. I must add that any action taken by the Commission is without prejudice to the rights of parties and candidates to seek further remedy as provided by law.
An INEC in Rivers State has also released the comprehensive result of the National Assembly elections conducted in the state last Saturday. Well, the election was conducted in 3 senatorial districts and 13 federal constituencies. While results were released for the 3 senatorial districts, 2 are outstanding for the 13 federal constituencies. A summary of the results show that the PDP won the 3 senatorial seats and 9 out of 11 federal constituencies, while the APC and Labour Party won 1 seat each. The elected senators are the current Deputy Governor, Dr. Palibo Hari Banigo for Rivers West Senatorial District. Senator Barinada Mpigi retains his seat in Rivers Southeast, while a former Commissioner for Sports and Education, Allwell Yeso, takes the Rivers East Senatorial District. The federal constituencies won by the PDP are Eche Omoma, Ekwere Emoa, Ahoda West, Ogba Egbemandoni, Akukutoru, Asaritoru, Eleme Tai Oyibo, Abua Odwa, Ahoda East, Andoni Okbobo Nkoro, Degema Boni, and Obiakbo, while the APC won in Okrika, Ogbobolo, and the Labour Party won Port Harcourt Constituency 1. Results from Kana Gokana and Port Harcourt Constituency 2 are yet to be released. Well, ahead of the March 11th governorship and state houses of assembly elections, the Federal High Court in Lagos State has granted leave to Labour Party and 41 others to apply for judicial review and mandamus orders compelling INEC to directly and electronically upload results from the polling unit in the state to the INEC's result viewing portal, that's IREV. Justice Peter Lifo granted the request in the suit filed on Thursday by the Labour Party, its governorship candidate, Gbadebo Rhodesviver, and 40 others. The court also restrained INEC from engaging the services of individuals or companies who are members of any political party in the distribution of electoral materials. The Labour Party, alongside other applicants in the case, had approached the courts to compel INEC to comply with Clause 37 and 38 of the Regulations and Guidelines for the Conduct of Elections 2022 on electronic transmission of results and Section 27 of the Electoral Act on distribution of election materials. The plaintiffs, through their lawyer, Ibrahim Abbas, also sought declarations compelling the electoral body to adhere to the guidelines on the conduct of elections. And now to Ogun State, where the police command has warned politicians and their supporters to play by the rules of the game in the build-up to next week's election. The State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Frank Mba, gave the warning during a parley with members of the political parties, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and other groups, while assuring residents and other critical stakeholders of utmost professionalism and impartiality. He says that the long arm of the law will catch up with criminals who are bent on scuttling the process.
A successful conduct of the governorship and the House of Assembly elections is important to all parties involved, so the presence of critical stakeholders at this interactive session is highly instructive to ensure credible, free and fair elections. The police, Nigerian Army, Civil Defense, the Correctional Service, the Department of State Security and the political class, amongst others, in Ogun State are meeting in Abeokuta, the state capital, to discuss ways of ensuring a peaceful exercise. The State Commissioner of Police warns against any form of breakdown of law and order.
If we catch you, if we arrest you, publishing fake or unauthorized results of election, which will clearly fit into the definition of fake news, you stand the risk of going to jail for 6 months. Vote buying is a punishable offense, and if you are arrested, you stand the risk of going to jail for 6 months or paying a fine of 500,000 naira or a combination of both. Our promise to you is that we'll be non-partisan, we'll be politically neutral, and we'll do everything that is operationally and administratively necessary and within our powers to provide a safe, credible, and violence-free space for the elections.
Resident Electoral Commissioner in the state, Mr. Nii Jalaye, seizes the opportunity to reassure parties concerned that the lapses observed during the just conducted presidential election are being looked into.
We will continue as a commission to do our utmost best in ensuring that all machines are working properly. In the event that they need to be corrected, our technical support will do just that. If we need to replace the beavers, we shall replace them. Thank you.
Political parties pledged their support to the tenets of the Electoral Act and promised to take the message back to their supporters.
On behalf of my own party, everything that I've had today will be conveyed accurately to our members.
It's a good thing what we are doing here to engage the political, the media about the coming election. The profile of Frank Mba is something that has been ringing bell. I want to congratulate you for coming to our state.
All parties concerned in the electoral processes are committing to delivering a peaceful and credible exercise come March the 11th.
In part two, after the break, political parties ramp up campaigns in various parts of the country as they woo voters ahead of the March 11th governorship and state assembly elections. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Ahead of next weekend's governorship and state assembly elections, INEC gives assurances that the bimodal voter accreditation system will be used, says it is working to avoid a repeat of the glitches in last Saturday's elections. Police in Ogun State warn against scuttling the electoral process, meets with representatives of INEC and political parties in preparation for the governorship election. Federal High Court in Lagos State grants leave to Labour Party and 41 others to apply for order, compelling INEC to directly and electronically upload results from the polling units in the state to the IREV in next Saturday's election. Russian and Ukrainian forces fight in the streets of the eastern city of Bakhmut. And now to the campaigns. Despite being a major revenue earner for Ogun State, the Ado-Ota local government area of the state lacks some basic infrastructure. Well, that's according to the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress ADC in the state, Mr. Olubiyi Otegbe. While addressing a crowd of party supporters at his campaign rally in the area, he promised to reverse the situation if he's voted into power on March the 11th. The governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress in Ogun State, Mr. Olubiyi Otegbe, his running mate, Olatunde Awonuga, party leaders and loyalists continue the campaign tour of political wards, but this time in Ado-Ota local government area. For the first time since the team kicked off its 2023 governorship campaign tour, they are being joined by former governor of the state, Senator Bikole Amosun. Ado-Ota local government in Ogun West Senatorial District is an industrial hub and a major source of internal revenue for the state. The former governor, while addressing the people, laments what he describes as the abandonment of landmark projects which were embarked upon by his administration. He assures them that the ADC candidate will continue where he stopped.
We are not here because of personal reasons. We're here because of our collective development of Ogun State. We want Ogun State to develop. It is where we left our work. That is where the works are still. We are governor. Governor do not go around and be commissioning local government on councillors' road. You see what we did. Look at the Lower Wela Road. Look at the Ota Township Road. Even the Besa Lusada Road, it is our road. They went there, they said they are commissioning. No problem is good for us. We want development to continue.
Mr. Otegbe reiterates his commitments to prioritizing the welfare of his people if elected into office.
We are in Ado-Odo, one of the biggest, most important cities in Ogun State. This is a traditional town, and Ado-Odo has history. All the youth of Ado-Odo, they are wonderful youth. I know them because I am part of them.
With just about a week to the governorship election, hopes are high that the electorate in the state will exercise their franchise in a free, fair and credible atmosphere, and the party is optimistic of victory. And to Adamawa State, where Governor Marvin Tiri is vowing to ensure that adequate security is provided for residents to go about their businesses without fear. maintaining that the state belongs to all, irrespective of tribe or religion. Governor Fintiri stated this while receiving some Igbo women residents in the state who came to show support for his re-election bid. According to them, they chose to throw their weight behind the governor because of his strides in the development of the state, which they say has given the Igbo community a sense of belonging.
During my campaign in 2019, that there is no Igbo here that is an indigene of Anambra, Abia, Enugu, or Imo. We all belong to Adamawa State. And going forward into the 2023 election, I will continue to ensure I position your own portion very well. And I want to assure you that Adamawa belongs to all of us. The Adamawa of our dream, I will continue to make Adamawa safe so that all of us can live and coexist and do our business. This is what you want. I've turned around this thing. I've made infrastructure the bedrock of this administration. And that has made your husband and your children to be in business. I will continue on that trajectory so that everybody will get what to do in this state.
In neighboring Taraba State, the governorship candidates of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress are wooing residents of the state. Well, the PDP candidate, retired Lieutenant Colonel Abu Kefas, held a rally in the northern part of the state, promising to use his military experience to end insecurity. While the APC candidate, Senator Emmanuel Boacha, also held a rally and assured residents that his administration will focus on road infrastructure and resuscitate the state civil service.
The All Progressives Congress is the leading opposition party in Taraba State. However, the party is determined to change this narrative on March 11 by promising to deliver quality healthcare delivery services and improve the road infrastructure.
Anybody who comes to deceive you that APC has no candidate, tell him we hear you. We are going to vote APC. Anybody who says should go to court. We will meet in court. That is all that you will tell them because they are afraid. They know they will lose the election, so they want to discourage our followers. They want to tell you that we don't have candidates. A lie. They have nothing to offer to you. They have drained our resources. They have divided us along tribal lines. They have divided us along religious lines. We will not agree again. We are going to take our destiny on our hands, and we will restore righteousness in Taraba State. We will restore the glory of Taraba State. All you need to do is to take up your PVC on the 11th March and vote for APC.
On the other hand, in the northern parts of the state, the PDP campaign train arrived with a promise to tackle the lingering dispute between the Thieves and Jukun in the state.
As a soldier, we do not talk much. It will work all through my tenure if elected. I want to assure you all that all that is uncompleted at the end of this present administration will be completed by me. On March 11, 2023, come out en masse and vote for me under the platform of the PDP. And I assure you of my return to appreciate your gesture with enormous task.
The PDP candidate is also promising to revamp agriculture and education in the state.
Back here in Lagos State, the PDP governorship candidate, Olajide Adediran, is intensifying his quest for the office of the state's chief executive with a meeting with members of the Igbo communities in the Solo area of the state earlier today. Addressing the gathering, Mr. Adediran assures them that a vote for him is a vote for freedom and prosperity.
It's a week to the 2023 governorship election, and political parties are putting finishing touches to the preparations. Here in Lagos, members of the Igbo communities in the state are hosting the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Olajide Adediran, and members of his team in a town hall meeting in Isolo. And the objective is to hear from the governorship candidate ahead of next Saturday's poll.
This battle is beyond physical.
The PDP governorship candidate Olajide Adediran unveils his agenda for Lagos State and how members of the group can help in the realization of those objectives.
From May 29 this year, in Jando, you now have a governor that will understand that your coming into Lagos is to add to our prosperity. If anybody says to us that Lagos is a rich state today, it is because of your contribution in Alaba, in Ladiko, in Agbada, in trade fair. And in this governor that is standing before you, you will now see somebody with common sense. Knows that wherever your people are making money, you don't give them problem. What you give them is what they call of doing business.
A chieftain of the PDP in Lagos State, Kate Onyechere, says she believes that the election will swing the way of her party.
I'm too sure that from this thing we are going to win Lagos State. We have already taken it. All the Igbos and even the South and the Arewas, they are all going to vote for PDP. Who is the PDP? Jadon. Oh, I'm sure, more than sure, and we are going to see it, that we said, and as we said, it's going to be.
At the end of the meeting, everyone leaves the venue with the hope that their candidates will carry the day at the end of the exercise.
Meanwhile, the conduct of last Saturday's presidential National Assembly elections is still the subject of debate in many quarters. This time in Benue State, the PDP and Labour Party claimed that the elections were conducted with substantial non-compliance to the Electoral Act, but the APC maintains that the elections were won fairly. Meanwhile, the acting state chairman of the PDP, Mr. Isaac Mfo, says the party's governorship candidate, Mr. Titus Suba, has not stepped down from the race as being speculated.
Titus Tartengi of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner.
Wild jubilation trailed the announcement of Mr. Titus Zam of the All Progressives Congress APC as the winner of the Benue Northwest senatorial election, defeating Governor Samuel Otom of the People's Democratic Party. The APC eventually won one more senatorial seat and 10 seats in the House of Representatives. The outcome of the exercise is not satisfactory to members of the PDP and the Labour Party, especially ahead of the governorship and state houses of assembly elections.
As far as Labour Party Benue State is concerned, the presidential election held in our state lacks credibility and falls short of empirical indices to be referred to as free, fair, credible and transparent elections.
There has been flying over the social media in the last 24 hours a rumor that the governorship candidate of our great party, Engineer Titus Uba, has stepped down from the March 11, 2023 gubernatorial elections. You know, this has always been their talking thread. It's either that the man is dead or whatever. The rumor is a lie fabricated by agents of opposition political parties, which are afraid of facing Engineer Titus Uba at the coming polls.
Nevertheless, the APC insists the election is a true reflection of the desires of the people of Benue State.
The people of Benue have spoken, and they've spoken clearly. They voted for our party, the APC. And if you look at the results, it is very clear
that we won and we won fair and square. The PDP should, go back to the drawing board and plan.
Despite the varying stance of the exercise, all the parties are gearing up for an improved performance ahead of the March 11 governorship and state houses of assembly election in the state.
Well, staying with electoral matters, the Nigeria Police Force says it has paid the allowances due to police personnel who participated in the elections held on Saturday. A spokesperson of the police, Mr. Olumiwa Adejobi, made the clarification in a statement against what he said were reports that some police officers have not been paid their accrued allowances. Well, according to him, the mandate for the payment of the allowance has been issued and all lodgements made to respective deposit money banks for onward payments to the affected police personnel. He urged officers and men who are yet to receive payment of the election allowances to take up such matters with their respective banks to address the issues responsible for the delay. The police maintained that matters of non-payment should not be ascribed to the force, as the police account and the budget office has done the needful, and preparations are underway to pay the second tranche of election allowances for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections next week. Well, the ruling All Progressives Congress in Cross River State has rejected the result of last week's senatorial election in Cross River North Senatorial District, where the People's Democratic Party's candidate, Senator Agum Jerigbe, was declared winner by INEC. The candidate of the APC for the election is incumbent governor of the state, Professor Ben Ayade. Briefing newsmen at the APC Secretariat, the state chairman, Mr. Alphonsus Auger, maintained that the senatorial election was marred by irregularities as well as intimidation by military and vowed to retrieve the governor's mandate. The Cross River State chairman of the APC made this known in Calabar, the state capital, while answering questions from journalists in a media parley held at the APC Secretariat.
That declaration is only a Pyrrhic victory that will evaporate into thin air. Not only were there issues of manipulation of votes, even issues of votes exceeding the number that were accredited in the beavers, even scientifically, how one single person will drive voters that were accredited and one finger will be thumbprinting ballot papers. In such incidences, we have forensic experts, and we are going to every extent. The back-end report and everything have clearly given us a preliminary report of what happened. This and so many things, and this electoral act came so new. I don't know how many people in PDP that even have a copy of this. Not to talk about reading it. So they went like tomfoolery and have fooled themselves. And when the tribunal opens in the next few days, I can assure you they will return back home. We are not only contesting it, we will take it to the highest level that the law permits, but we enjoin our supporters not to take to the street. Let us follow the path of law, and that is what we are doing.
Now, looking forward now, members of the Agro-Commodities Directorate of the Presidential Campaign Council of the APC are calling for a total agricultural revolution that will boost growth in the sector. The group, which is mostly made up of farmers, spoke at a news conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, to set the agenda for the incoming administration. According to them, the next president should prioritize agriculture and commodities exchange for job creation and food security. And on to security matters now. Gunmen suspected to be kidnappers have abducted 2 wives and a son of the head of Sarkin Kudu in Ibi local government area of Taraba State, Densalama Adamu. Well, the police public relations officer in the state, Abdullahi Usman, said the armed men invaded the traditional ruler's residence last night when he was away from the house. The abduction comes barely 3 weeks after 2 wives and 5 children of a chief of Mutumbeyu in Gasol local government area of the state were kidnapped and killed, while one of the children escaped. The police spokesperson added that the gunmen are yet to establish contact with the family of the victims, but some suspects have been arrested in connection with Friday night's abduction. According to him, the arrested suspects are providing useful information to the police. To the fight against terror in Kaduna State, where the military says troops of Sector 4 of Operation World Punch and Special Forces of the 167 Battalion have cleared a bandit hideout during a fierce encounter in Chikun local government area. The troops, who were said to have embarked on a long-range fighting patrol to Tukurwa general area of Chikun local government area, engaged and overpowered the bandits, and in the process killed one of them, while others fled in disarray. A statement issued by the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Arawan, explains that during the operation, troops rescued 14 kidnapped victims, comprising 9 men and 5 women. In the course of the operation, several camps belonging to the bandits were destroyed, while 2 motorcycles recovered. To business now. Traders at the Garki Ultra Modern Market in Abuja are appealing to the federal government to make the business environment easier by making cash available for transactions. The traders, who were reacting to the continued cash crunch resulting from the CBN's Naira redesign policy, told Channels Television that buyers are unable to make payments after purchasing items, and this has diminished their sales.
The usual bustle at the Garki Ultra Modern Market is somewhat reduced. While the traders are all here, it looks like there are fewer people than normal here to buy goods. The traders are blaming the reduced number of buyers on the implementation of the Naira redesign policy.
You look at the markets here, but buying is not going on. There are many goods in the market. Women are not selling. We are hungry. We need cash.
Lots of that money, I don't get anything to sell now. And they make me weak, so that the money no day. And this market, if they see me as an old woman, they no go buy because I no sabi transfer, and I no get a bank account.
Some others are not too bothered by the crunch.
For me, it's quite added a much impact in me in the aspect of my savings.
The prospective buyers agree. They lament over difficulties in purchasing goods.
It's not fair. For 3 hours I've been in the market just to buy how many things. If I had cash, I would have been out of this market since 2 hours ago. But I can't pay for anything. I have to drop some things I want to buy.
This is what I'm going with, but of course I would have loved to buy some other things. I keep transferring 1,000, you are not, so you spend more time to get the things you want that you just pay and go. You end up just waiting to get network to transfer and all that. That's where we are.
With the Supreme Court ruling which nullified the federal government's policy and allows old Naira notes back in circulation, the sellers are optimistic.
If the government can find a means and make everything amicably to people, to the masses, and reach to the masses, and make cash to be rampant to everyone, so that cash can reach everyone. Whenever you're making any transaction, you can be able to buy something in the market and use cash and pay. If the government can do that, I find out that everything is going to be okay.
The Supreme Court has ruled that old currencies return to circulation until December 31, 2023. There will definitely be relief amongst the citizenry when the cash is readily available.
To education in Borno State, where the state government says the administration of Professor Babagana Zulum is spending about 5 billion naira to sponsor over 40,000 Borno indigents in higher institutions of learning. The beneficiaries are said to include orphans and children of fallen civilian members of the Joint Task Force fighting insurgency in the state. Presenting the scorecard of the governor as he winds down his first tenure in office, the executive secretary of the scholarship board explains that the intervention of the governor in the education sector has led to increased enrollment into secondary and tertiary schools among Borno indigents.
Over the last 13 years, Borno State has been the epicenter of Boko Haram insurgency, leading to an increased number of out-of-school children. And in 2019, when Professor Babagana Zulum became governor, almost all schools were shut down due to insecurity. And now that normalcy is returning, the governor, a professor and career teacher, is reviewing the state scholarship program to boost enrollment among affected communities.
The first thing he did was that he increased
the scholarship fare of the students. Diploma, initially they were receiving 12,000. He increased it to 15,000. NCE, 12,000. He increased it to 25. HND, who are receiving 15,000, it was increased to 25,000. University at that time, I think, is 20,000 naira. So he increased it to 30 for 4-year programs in science and art, and then engineering and some medical courses were increased to 50,000.
A major part of the funding will be used to sponsor the education of orphans and children of fallen civilian JTF members. 300 such beneficiaries were given a total sponsorship sum of 600 million naira.
There are students who are studying by themselves. What they do, they normally go during holidays and hostel by themselves to come and fund their studies. But since from the session of His Excellency, now those students are fully resettled and they are normally doing their activities without going and looking for another source of income to fund their education.
There is also a proposal by His Excellency to sponsor about 540 students to study nursing internally within the country. So 20 students per each local government. So each local government will present 20 persons for this purpose, so making the 540. So this is the target, and he has even instructed me to go out and seek for admission in some nursing schools very close to Borno State, targeting Adamawa, Gombe, Yobe, Jigawa, Kano, Bauchi for this purpose.
The target is to tackle the root cause of the Boko Haram insurgency and improve the education of school children in the northeast region.
In Osun State, southwest Nigeria, Governor Ademola Adeleke says his administration has, within its first 100 days in office, provided an enabling environment for developmental efforts to thrive and will continue to do so. The governor stated this at the project launch and presentation of checks to 40 communities and groups of people with special needs across the local government areas in the state. Well, he says the disbursement is part of the steps to revamp public utilities and infrastructure under the Osun Cares project initiated by the World Bank.
As part of efforts to deliver on its campaign promises to improve the welfare of residents of Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke says his administration is walking the talk to ensure the people feel the impact of good governance. Part of his development initiative is the implementation of multi-sectoral and socially inclusive micro-projects. At the formal presentation of checks to communities and groups of people with special needs across all local government areas, Governor Adeleke gives assurances of constant mobilization of resources to enable desired intervention.
Today's event is part of the step to revamp public utilities and infrastructures within the first 100 days of present government. Our administration has provided enabling environment for development efforts to thrive.
The general manager of the Community and Social Development Agency in charge of the project says proper monitoring will be carried out to ensure judicious use of funds.
The funding is targeted at development of communities in the state through the intervention of provision of infrastructure and social amenities. Osun CSDA is an agency of the government that makes use of community-driven development and primarily finance micro-projects initiated by communities.
No fewer than 18,000 persons spread across the 9 federal constituencies of the state are expected to benefit from the first phase of the initiative.
Well, elsewhere, the Hydropower Producing Area Commission, HYPODEC, is set to resettle Murigi and Ketsa communities whose inhabitants had been displaced as a result of floods and other ecological disasters caused by the hydropower dams in Niger State. Well, the commission performed the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of 160 units Phase 1 house settlements scheme for the communities at the new Murigi Resettlement Center in Mokwa local government area. The first ceremony, which was performed by Governor Abubakar Bello, is in phases, as the scheme will cover all the 6 hyperdeck states to be funded by the Commission.
It is the groundbreaking ceremony of the Hydropower Producing Areas Development Commission, HYPADEC, at the new Moregi resettlement area in Mokwa local government of Niger State. The project is expected to cater for victims of flood in communities along the bank of River Niger.
Efforts like this will guarantee the safety of lives and properties of our communities. It is my hope, prayer and wish that this project will be completed within the shortest possible time, so that efforts will be made to relocate members of various communities from Ketso and Moregi to the new site.
We support and mobilize our people to ensure that this project is completed within the stipulated time. However, I also want to advise the Commission to simultaneously establish a quick committee that will ensure the movement of everybody that is concerned. I move immediately after I build is completed.
The 160 detached 2-bedroom flats, which will cost a sum of 4.8 million naira each to build, is expected to be completed in 3 months.
We are giving the contractors 3 months to complete and hand over this project because we are providing them with sufficient funding. We are prepared to release the 30% mobilization, and once they reach 30%, we release another 30% within a month or so. So we are hoping by the 3rd month we should be thinking of allocation and handing over these houses to the successful dwellers.
The Commission hopes to extend the housing resettlement scheme to other states under its jurisdiction, including Benue, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Niger, and Plateau. The Commission is established by an act of the National Assembly in 2010 to address ecological challenges from the operations of hydroelectric dams.
And now for the latest business stories on the news at 10, here's Will Ibang.
Thanks, Kayode. Now, the Africa Development Bank says the continent's drive to transform its agriculture and become a breadbasket continues to receive strong global support, with development partners agreeing to commit more than $50 billion to plant barely 2 months after its launch in the recent Dakar 2 Food Summit organized by the African Development Bank and the Senegalese government. Political leaders had resolved to work with international partners to transform agriculture across the continent. Among the donors are Germany, the United States, and the Africa Development Bank. In Dakar, the leaders agreed to allocate at least 10% of public expenditure to increase funding for agriculture. They also resolved to deploy robust production packages to boost productivity and increase resilience to achieve food security and self-sufficiency. Meanwhile, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, says that Africa needs a total of $614 billion by 2030 to address its rising challenge of food insecurity and transform the food system. IFAD disclosed this in its report titled Financing Food Systems Resilience in Africa, a starting point for transformation. The agency has called for more finance and investments in Africa's food systems that targets job creation and harness the potential of Africa's youth. According to IFAD, in the wake of the war in Ukraine, the agency launched a crisis response initiative to protect the livelihoods and productive assets of small-scale farmers. Now, Nigeria's FX reserves remain under pressure as it continues to record declines. According to latest data from the central bank, the gross reserve position declined by $41.96 million week on week to close at $36.65 billion as of March the 2nd. Also last month, the central bank revealed that the country's external reserves fell by $427.14 million in just 1 month. Now, the forex market trading activity at the FMDQ exchange was mostly negative this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets tumbled by 82.69% week-on-week to $372.41 million. A further breakdown shows total value of transactions at the I&E window fell by 21.36% to $336.03 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market dipped by almost 1% to $36.38. Meanwhile, the value of the naira appreciated by 0.04% to 461 naira 24 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX window when compared to 461 naira 26 kobo it closed with in the previous week. Now, the bullish movement in the Nigerian stock market switched into a higher gear as the investors cherry-picked stocks following decent 2022 full-year corporate earnings releases. The all-share index advanced by 1.06% week-on-week to close at 8.6% year-to-date, and this was driven by buying interest in Girigu, Access Holding, PZ Cussons, Airtel Africa, and Dangote Cement. However, activity levels on the bourse were mixed as trading volume surged by 138.5%, while value dipped by 43.5%. Sectoral performance was broadly positive as the Consumer Goods Index recorded the most significant gain, followed by the Banking, Industrial Goods, Insurance indexes, while the Oil and Gas Index tumbled 2.36%. This was driven by losses in Seplat and O&O. Girigu emerged a top performer for the week, followed by C&I Leasing, while Charms PLC led the underperformers. Charms in the ICT industry led the top trades for the week, no doubt, followed by Capital Hotels and Transnational Corporation, contributing 54.33% and 14.22% to the total equity volume and value traded in the week. Similarly, the NASD OTC Securities Exchange Index closed the trading week in positive territory. The unlisted equities index rose more than 1.3%. However, turnover was much lower when compared to the previous week. Volume traded fell by about 79% to 38.15 million units, while value dipped by 67.94% to 57.97 million naira. Afriland Properties PLC topped the gainers chart for this week, followed by Friesland Campina Wamco. Central Securities Clearing System was the only loser for the week. And that's it on Business News. It's back to Kaide for the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thanks, Will. The president is in Qatar for the 5th United Nations Conference on the least developed countries, holding in the capital, Doha. Well, this follows an invitation extended to the president, that's President Muhammadu Buhari, by the Emir of Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. According to the president's media aide, Mr. Garba, the conference, which begins tomorrow and lasts till March the 9th, holds once in a decade and provides an opportunity to garner the support of the international community for accelerating sustainable development in the less developed countries. The president is expected to reinforce Nigeria's commitment to support the most vulnerable countries to meet their development challenges, as well as highlight areas Nigeria has provided them with various forms of assistance over time. Well, the summit will be attended by world leaders and other participants from the private sector, civil society, and youth organizations. It also aims to share developmental ideas and mobilize political will and action to transform the LDCs, as they are called, by finding sustainable solutions to the challenges of poverty, food insecurity, and hunger, among others. The president is expected back in the country on Wednesday, March the 8th. And for a trip around the world of sports, here's Victor Matthias.
Indeed, Kaide, let's now take that trip. Now, matches spanning 100 minutes could become commonplace, with FIFA President Gianni Infantino calling for more accurate calculations regarding added time to be implemented in competitions around the world. Speaking at the International Football Association Board annual meeting in London, Infantino said last year's FIFA World Cup, where 100 minutes of stoppage time became a normal occurrence, had shown the way. Raising the amount of time the ball is in play has become a priority for IFAB. Statistics showed that English Premier League matches were seeing actual playing time of well under 60 minutes. In the English Premier League, Reece Nelson scored a stunning 97-minute winner as leaders Arsenal came from 2 goals down to beat AFC Bournemouth 3-2. Phil Foden's superb solo goal helped defending champions Manchester City see off Newcastle United 2-0. Wesley Fofana scored his first goal for Chelsea as the Blues edged Leeds United to ease the pressure on manager Graham Potter. Tottenham Hotspur ended a miserable week with a narrow defeat by Wolverhampton Wanderers after a late goal from Adama Traore stunned the Champions League contenders. Now, Crystal Palace are still waiting for their first win of 2023 after Joachim Andersen's own goal saw them fall to a narrow defeat at Aston Villa, while Brighton and Hove Albion boosted their hopes of European qualification with a commanding victory over West Ham United. In Spain, Barcelona coach Xavi Hernandez has admitted that the La Liga leaders are the hardest club in the world to manage, owing to their critics always being ready to attack the team even after it wins big games. Barcelona defeated Real Madrid 1-0 in the Copa del Rey semi-final first leg on Thursday at the Santiago Bernabeu, but were criticized for only having 34% of possession. Xavi said the demand on his team to play good football as well as winning games and lifting trophies meant his job was trickier than any other in the game. Barcelona faced Valencia in the La Liga on Sunday. And RB Leipzig have announced that star forward Christopher Nkunku may miss several weeks, including the Champions League last 16 game at Manchester City. Nkunku suffered a thigh strain in his side's 2-1 loss at Borussia Dortmund and is set for a spell on the sidelines. Leipzig play on March the 11th at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach before traveling to Manchester City for the second leg of their Champions League last 16 tie. Leipzig also announced that midfielder Xavier Schläger would be out for a long time and will go under the knife on Monday after tearing a ligament. Now that's it on Sports News. It's back to Kaide with the wrap of the news at 10. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you for watching.
Well, thanks, Victor. French President Emmanuel Macron has taken his 4-day African tour aimed at renewing freight ties to the Republic of Congo after signing an economic agreement with Angola. Macron landed in the Congolese capital, Brazzaville, on the third leg of his voyage, where he met with President Denis Sassou Nguesso in Brazzaville. In the Angolan capital, Luanda, Macron held talks with his counterpart, João Lourenço, calling the oil-rich country a strategic partner in the region. Macron, who chaired an economic forum attended by more than 50 French companies, said that the heart of this visit is the strengthening of agricultural partnerships with Angola. And outside Africa, Russian and Ukrainian forces are fighting in the streets of Ukraine's eastern city of Bakhmut. And that's according to its deputy mayor, who said Russia does not control the eastern city. Alexander Merchenko told the BBC that the remaining 4,000 civilians are living in shelters without access to gas, electricity, water. And he added that the city is almost destroyed. Bakhmut has been seeing months of fighting as Russia tries to take control. And the main news again. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, today gave assurances that the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, will be used in next weekend's governorship and state assembly elections. It says it is working to avoid a repeat of the glitches in last Saturday's presidential and national assembly elections. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Good night.